While enforcing the law for as long as I have, specifically around a decade or so, you'll see some strange things, whatever it be. Horrific, like the time my daughter was murdered with my weapons, or anything else. It's a wild ride to be sure. Stranger still, if you're patrolling the area that I have. See, I patrol a small place in Texas, and within that area is an even smaller area. An area that would happen to be a road. A roadway, really. A shortcut that normally many people use. However, this place has a reputation for housing odd, mysterious, and sometimes crazy. This little roadway is known as Harmony Way. It's that one special place, central to all conspiracy theories. Now, as I mentioned, this is a small area. And I'm talking teensy-weensy small. So small, I'm pretty sure nobody's ever heard of it except for the folk around here. Well, I guess, until now. See, as of late, the town folks have been getting anxious. They're starting to tell stories about Harmony Way, experiences. So I thought to myself, why not tell a few of my own? After all, Harmony Way is the place where absolutely anything can happen. And, well, absolutely anything does happen. Now, I probably won't begin describing all the goings-on in the area, but I can at least fit in what I remember. Story 1. The Deer Crash. So, this was one of my first days on the job. I was pretty nervous, and I was with my partner, Chris Granite, who was pretty friendly, although rough and serious. Before I go any further, I should probably tell you that this is one of the least scary stories I've experienced. But it's the first run-in I've had with the paranormal in the area. So, I was patrolling the road. Yes, that road. And I happened to find a deer. I was observing the deer, just minding its own business on the road. And then a car came by. It was speeding, way past the limit. It was about to hit the deer. And then the deer simply stayed still. The car was the one that was damaged. Thankfully, the driver was fine. And due to the accident at hand, I let him loose with a $100 fine so he could pay for his damages. I got reprimanded for this error later. Yo, Charles, what the hell? What? The guy crashed into the deer, and it was perfectly fine. Yeah, odd shit happens. Welcome to Harmony Way. The guy knew what he was getting into. Speeding in Harmony Way of all places? Besides, we don't give tickets around here for speeding. We don't? Nah, not on Harmony Way. Anyway, there's sort of an unspoken rule for that particular street. Namely, if strange shit happens on Harmony Way, and a person is harmed from it, even if they were engaging in small-time illegal activities like speeding and texting and driving or something like that, well, we pardon it, since said paranormal experience is usually penance enough. So what, this stuff is on our side? He chuckled a bit, as if I had said something dumb. Charles, there's a lot you've got to learn. The things in this area, it doesn't take sides. It's not good or bad. It just is. It's like nature. In a weird way, nature isn't inherently good or inherently evil. It's just neutral. In this game of life, you know? Yeah. After that, nothing else really happened around there. We packed up and went home. Story 2. The Human Bird. This was another relatively harmless experiment. So, I was in my second week of patrolling the area. After a bit, I was finally tasked with patrolling Harmony Way again with Chris. We were just recovering from an experience with a missing kid in the forest, but, that's for another day. So, it was a few hours of boredom, except for some speeders, a bit of cloud watching, the whole, that cloud looks like Texas type of thing. When we were about to give up, and we saw something in the sky. A bird. Now you may be thinking, Charles, why are you talking about a bird? I thought this was our no sleep, not our snooze time. Downvote. Well, here's one little tiny detail about this particular bird. It had a face. And not just any face. This particular face was the face of my mother, who's been dead for 10 years of Alzheimer's. Now, I'm no genius, but shouldn't that be impossible? I look at Chris, confused. He nods. Let me guess, you know the face on that bird? I look at him in shock. How do you even know that? And why does that bird even have a face to begin with? Never mind my own mother's. Like I told you before, strange shit happens here. One day it's Elvis's ghost, another you get transported to another dimension for a few seconds. That's why we're here, to make sure people stay safe and don't end up dead. Dead? People die here? A brief pause. Anyway, that cloud over there looks like a donut, doesn't it? Story number 3, my own doppelganger. Well, this marks the 4th time I've been on Harmony Way. 3rd time didn't really give me anything new. But the 4th time, oh lord. I mentioned Harmony Way gets scary. Well, this is my earliest experience of the true horrors of Harmony Way. I was patrolling the area, as usual, stopping speeders, keeping the streets safer than they would be. Although it's still relatively unsafe. I turned to Chris. You know, Chris, I've been wondering. Yes? Well, so far things haven't been very dangerous. You mentioned people dying. New topic. How's your day so far, Charles? No, I'm serious. Why isn't anything terrible happening? No demonic possessions? Chris looked at me and leaned over to me. Charles, you don't want to talk about this crap right now. Not in the middle of the street. Why? I think it has its own consciousness. It can hear us as long as we're in it. We found this out through experimentation. Oh. Well, seeing the anomalies happening so far, I wouldn't be surprised. And it didn't see you as a threat, to answer your question. How so? First thing to know, the more you know about Harmony Way, the more dangerous it gets. Once again, it's been done through HQ experimentation. Just make sure to look the other way and you won't be in for much. I nod slowly. Makes sense after all. If this thing has a consciousness, it would be able to hear us, right? I don't inquire anymore. Not because there weren't a million questions running through my head. After all, anyone working in this particular area is bound to drown in questions surrounding these anomalies. But rather, I saw something. Myself. Specifically, it was walking across the street. There were a few differences, though. Firstly, the eyes were black. And I mean coal black. As in, doesn't reflect any light. I'd describe it as Vanada black. That one shade of black that doesn't reflect any light. You've seen those articles, right? This discovery was partly from this, but that's another story. Second, it was way too tall. I'm talking super tall and skeletal, easily 10 feet high. Lastly, it was twitching. Very much so. Well, that wasn't the last thing. I lied. The last one came when it spoke. What are you doing here? Come with me. I have safety from the end. It was a distorted voice. It was like different audio clips all attached together to form a sentence. Something seemed suspicious. Then Charles declares, "Pleasure of a day it's been." The being hissed and got on all fours. I will find you eventually, and when I do, I will kill you. We must survive. Everlast. The creature crawled away, swearing its revenge at this point. I turned to Chris and I began to ask, "What was that? What do you say? How do you possibly know?" Look, if you think this is the first time we've ever encountered one of these doppelgangers, you're terribly mistaken. Here's a fact. They're incredibly common. But that doesn't mean they're not dangerous. He began to pack up. Don't let them touch you. Otherwise, you'd turn into a pile of boils and flesh. Then, you'd have to be put in the Foundation's hands, and trust me, you don't want that. He packs up his things. After I asked him where he's going, he said he had to report the incident to the Foundation, and that it was best that I went home for the day. Story 4. 1 billion hands. So, I was patrolling for about a month now. Now, there was more paranormal shit going on, but it was mostly harmless stuff. Chris came out about an hour early, said there was a Foundation meeting. Although he isn't technically part of the Foundation, he merely reports to the officers. According to Chris, there are guys researching Harmony Way. I didn't know much about them at the time, though. So his car came over in the parking lot. Then, suddenly, it crashed. I saw a hand reach up and grab the tire, poking multiple holes in it. I looked down to see more hands reaching up to grab me. I barely stepped out of the way before they could touch me with their claws, doing who knows what to me. So, I kept going across the entire road on my 2 bare feet. In hindsight, I should have gone for the vehicle immediately, but I was a dumb 20-something. It's not like I knew any better. So, I kept going on my own 2 feet, still running from the hands on the ground. Then, the worst thing possible happened. Some guy, clearly looking for an adventure to brag to his friends about, walking on the side of the road. Christ. The imagery. I saw the hands grab this poor guy, squeezing him tight. The muscles were visible as he was getting squeezed. All of his innards were exposed as his leg kept getting squeezed tighter and tighter. And then, the boils began. They started to form absolutely everywhere on him, as the thing, thankfully, starts to let go. Soon enough, he became a blob of skin, muscles, and boil. As the arm started to go into the background, Chris came up and marveled at the mess that was left behind. Yeesh, I remember my first time seeing the handies get their victims. Probably the single moment I realized. Then he put his hand on my shoulder. This isn't going to be one of those jobs you simply quit. We're here for a reason, and we're here to stay. This is going to stay with us forever, probably. Pack your stuff. We're going to the Foundation.